What's going on, world, YouTube, amputees, fellow amputees? My name is Gary the Amputee. This is going to be a new series for me, just kind of going over everything Amputee 101. So I'm talking about before I lost my leg, to the experiences I had, negative and positive, the pain, the process, overcoming it. Also, I'm going to have chapters on amputee hacks and little things to know along the way. You know, things that I had to learn the hard way, and sometimes those can lead to complications or sores or painful situations. And so I learned the hard way, and I am making this chapter and segment. This is chapter one. I'm not sure how many chapters I'm going to have, but this is chapter one, and this one is who am I? So I have my notepad here. There's just so much to cover. It just helps me keep a tab on everything that I need to go through. So like I said, my name is Gary. I've been an amputee since March of 2014. It was due to, I had 6 surgeries prior to the amputation due to a fractured talus from skateboarding. And the talus is the bone that this sits on, and it's the bone to your bottom of your foot. I'm not a doctor, I couldn't explain the exact name of the muscles and everything like that. But that's what fractured. After 2 years, the bone died. And then I was looking at surgeries. So I had 6 surgeries to try and fix it. The doctor at the time, he thought of the surgery on the way to work. He said, we're just going to fuse it, and we're just going to do a zero motion fusion. And what that means is when I had my leg, they basically had a series of 6 surgeries that I'll get into later on about that led up to my amputation altogether. And so after those 6 surgeries that I had to try and preserve my leg, they did get it fused. And what that means is that your ankle cannot go down, up, over. It's stuck straight 90-degree angle. That's all you get. And so they told me I'd never walk right again. I was 21, I needed a cane, crutches. I wouldn't be able to walk up a driveway due to the grade of the driveway would be too much of an angle. Or if I stepped on a rock on the sidewalk, or if it snowed outside and there's piles of snow that the plows push onto the sidewalk. Because I don't drive, it's my right leg that's missing. And so I also had 2 X-fixes that went down both sides of my legs. And an X-fix is a carbon fiber frame to the outside. When they cut my ankle out to basically add shaved bone as the new ankle, and then a whole bunch of screws, when they take that talus out, the rotted bone, what they end up doing is they fuse it with these it's hard to explain, they're metal drilled in screws. They go into the foot and the toes and the heel, and it's pretty gruesome looking. I had a lot of people when I would take the bus, ask me all the time, whoa, can I, I'm in med school, can I take a picture of that? Or just kind of crazy stuff like that. And it was quite painful. I was on crutches for 2 years throughout the whole process. Once all the surgeries were done, it was about a year before a vascular necrosis took over the makeshift bone that they made for my ankle out of bone shavings from my knee and femur. So that started developing, and a vascular necrosis is deterioration or rotting of the bone, dying of the bone, and bone is dense. So through that process, they told me I needed an amputation, and they were kind of nervous about telling me, with everything else going on with the surgeries and stuff like that going on, Mr. Slow, you're going to need an amputation. And so I was like, when can we do it? About when it's about time. 2 years of 6 surgeries that just depleted my life. Crutches, canes. I was told I'd never walk again. I'm in the Rocky Mountains. I could go, I used to go hiking. I used to wakeboard, skateboard, BMX bike, and you name it, anything, I was doing it. And so all the extreme sports were done. Walking was done. Everything was out the window until I was looking at the amputation. And the reason why, I'm a below the knee. I'm what's considered an RBK, a right below the knee. And that's just as much residual nub as I have below the knee. And the reason it's cut so high from an ankle infection, bone infection, is because where those screws went in were right here. And then the holes that they put in when they drilled in could hold the actual infection. So the doctor wanted to amputate completely above anything that was ever worked on. So that's what happened. So after that, well, I should say before the amputation, I went through a process where I was able to meet with several different prosthetic companies. There was a few that they had told me about. I met with the surgeon that was going to cut my leg off. He explained the process. I went ahead and I had a meeting with both companies that I was introduced to that were in the local area for me. And I picked the one that I felt. I went and did a little interview with both, and they kind of explained, their take on it and their direction on how they want to approach your amputation, because no amputation is the same. They're all different, and everyone's complications down the road all can be different. So I chose the company that I felt right, and I was fitted with a leg by an awesome prosthetist named Greg, and he was phenomenal. He killed it. He was there from when they cut off my leg to wrapping the cast on in the hospital, through the whole process, getting me into my first real socket, not a check socket, not one that was made just to figure out the shape and form and make adjustments before they make it permanent. So I worked with him from the day I lost my leg, even before that, a week or so, 2 weeks, whatever I was scheduled before the amputation. So I had time to meet with him and go over the process and everything. So he was actually there right after my amputation, there casting me up, doing that kind of stuff. And when I came to, he was one of the people that was there first to check on everything, and then recast as the process goes. I was in the hospital for 5 days, and that was just to make sure everything was stable, make sure no bleeding, keep an eye on me. Everything was fine, so I was sent home. In these videos, I'm going to recommend never ever do anything without talking to your doctor, your prosthetist, or whoever your care provider is before making any decision on your own with physical activity and losing your leg or any other injury. Consult the doctor first before just going out and making a mistake. This is my story here, like I said. So after the amputation, after I was recasted, my family normally goes to Wyoming to do a fly fishing trip. So we went up to Wyoming, and I was on crutches with no leg but a cast on my nub. And I went out on a fly fishing trip and was able to at least catch one fish. Very rugged to get down to the river from this dam that we were fishing, and the lodge that we were staying at, and I was out of state, so any emergency that could have happened to my leg, I would not be able to reach the people that are known and familiar with my case in time. So that's why they recommend don't doing that, and I recommend don't doing that either. I was pretty ignorant. I also was lucky because I didn't have any injuries. I was amazing on crutches because I was on them for 2 years. I had to go through 2 winters crutching through the snow and treacherous stuff. So like ice everywhere. Up here in Colorado, it gets cold and frigid in the winters. So there's a lot of hills, there's a lot of terrain. It just is a nightmare for someone going through 2 years on crutches. So I was ready to get out and live my life. And So that's kind of what I did. I went out for the week. We came back, everything was fine. But from that process, basically it was jumping into getting ready for the full thing. I every week I had to go in and get a new cast over my nub, and because most people, when they lose their leg, you're going to develop atrophy from not having a calf. So when I lost my leg, my nub was probably about here, about in width, and it slowly atrophies in because you're not using your calf muscle. There's nothing there really to go for. So, and also right after the amputation, you have a lot of swelling, there's stitches, there's other things going on still, your body's still really inflamed. But every week your swelling goes down and they have to fit you with a new cast. So we did that, and finally I was in the phase for a check socket. And depending on your company, what that could be, there's several things. This is a solid carbon fiber finished socket, real thin. Check sockets are going to be real big. They're going to be either clear plastic wrapped in cast. It looks like when you break your arm, the same material, they wrap your arm in a cast, same stuff. You'll see that at the bottom around the block. Here it'll either be clear or some kind of bendable, pliable plastic that they're able to manipulate, because the process to get fitted is a long one sometimes. And for me, it can be quite frustrating, and it can be quite a negative experience. When it's been that long and you're waiting and waiting and waiting, and then the swelling's down, you're able to get fitted for a leg. You're waiting on insurance to pay for or approve your actual leg. So most companies will give you a loaner leg, which is just a really old one of these that they have in the back, and they'll throw it on your check socket at least to get you used to using a check socket, or so you can do the on-off treatment, which I'll go into in a little bit. So I got fitted for a check socket, and that process can, like I said, it can be a negative one and a very long, discouraging one, because you will get put into something, and something you might notice right away that needs adjustment, or it could be something that only happens after you've been walking for 100 yards, 200 yards, then it starts, or other things, other complications like that. So it can be quite frustrating, and don't get discouraged, because when it gets right, and sometimes it can take 1,000 adjustments. Sometimes it only needs 2. I've walked into one where they've casted it, and once they made the final addition, it fit like a glass slipper. And that's what you're going to get to one day, is this feeling of a glass slipper. Now, I'm 6 years into my amputation. I don't think I'm atrophying anymore. I haven't had to get a new permanent socket that fit, because I haven't been atrophying for a while now. But when you first start, after you get your check socket, they're going to make you do a little bit of another negative, painful process, which is the on-off. And the on-off is at home on your, while you're downtime, watch TV, whatever. You'll put now this is for not all this. I have a pin and lock set up on mine. So not every prosthetic limb is the same, and not all function the same. This is for me. This is what happened under my situation. But most people will go through a similar situation with the on-off technique. And what that is you put your leg in and you'll tighten it on. There's a little screw here that will tighten on. When you put a little thing, you can tighten it if your leg's too swollen. That way you can get it pulled all the way on there. And when you first put your leg in a prosthetic, it can hurt. After about 10 minutes, it feels like your leg is being squeezed so much, you just can't take the pressure, and you just got to you pop it off. Just got to take it off. Click the little button and set it aside. It's got to be away. And then they want you to increase that. So for me, it was like every 30 minutes, put your leg on for 15, and then 30 minutes off, then 15 on, and then the next day it would increase. I'd go up to maybe 15, so 30 minutes every 30 minutes, and then it was 30 minutes of downtime, and then it would be 45 minutes, and then eventually you'll have more time in the socket, or your leg will acclimate. But it can be painful, it can be stressful, and it can be frustrating, and it can deter people from ever wanting to get a prosthetic. They think that that's the way it's going to be forever, and it's not. It's not that way. In fact, I can do things better now as an amputee than most two-legged people, and I get pictures taken. You know, mind if I get your picture taken? You're an inspiration. I can't even do that, and so you're going to be able to do things just the way you were, to an extent. You know, there's always going to be something that is never the same. Obviously, it's not a real leg. So, but it is a second chance at life, and these first processes can be, you know, real painful. For me, it was painful. It was hard to deal with. But the determination after 2 years and 6 surgeries, you know, and being told I'll never be able to walk right again, I'll always need a cane, I'll never be able to walk up a driveway right, let alone hike, walk on the beach in the sand, when it snows, if it's not flat, the ice is going to be a problem. I was told the world of things I couldn't do. And that all changed once I became an amputee. I was able to do those things and get my life back. It was a blessing from God. I'm religious, and I do believe that this was a second chance. So don't get discouraged. Don't let it get you down, because the rewards are just too great at the end. So I did that. Once I was done with that process, and my insurance went through, I was able to get my leg. But I should step back a few steps. Before insurance processed, I was using the rental leg, which is something similar to this, a real old school. This one's actually pretty light, but it had a big old heavy block on it, and a big old heavy block on it, and it was really stiff. You couldn't even bend it. And they put me in it, and they wanted to see just what I could do. And I got up and I walked out the door and around in and out. They had to bring other people in. They couldn't believe that I just stepped right in it and just started walking. Stiff, and you know, after 2 years of not walking, like you know, with the dreams I would have of running, and wake up in just total doubt. And then, you know, so I thought that maybe my memory process, you know, muscle memory, was retained by my dreams, because I was having dreams of running and walking and things normal, and then I would wake up and I would remember that I had a zero motion fusion and I couldn't do anything. So I put the leg on, and I took off. It wasn't the prettiest sight, but I mean, I was doing it without crutches, a cane. I was doing it pretty sturdily, and they were all impressed. They were all really impressed. So I do believe that I was a little more blessed when I got fitted, that I just had that willpower. I'm not sure what it was, but I just was blessed in the sense that I didn't need to really retrain myself on how to walk again. And I know that some people that have been without a leg for 10 years, you're gonna have to learn to re-walk again. I did go to PT and physical therapy to learn how to trust walking on it, because there's going to be times when you're wearing it and you don't trust what you can't feel. You know, all I can feel is the bottom of my nub. I can't feel what's under my toes. I don't have toes. So you have to learn how to trust yourself, like, you know, walking on a treadmill, looking forward and not looking down. And so I did the physical therapy process, and that, you know, that for me, like I said, I'm blessed in the situation that I really didn't need it too long. And one of the reasons I say that is physical therapy can be expensive, and sometimes your doctor's going to want you in there 3 times a week, or he's going to have you in there a lot. And sometimes your copay is going to be a specialty copay, or you don't have insurance, so you pay the full price. And for me, at my copay at $50 a specialty visit, at 3 times a week. I didn't have $150. I'm on disability for mental reasons. That was before I lost my leg. So I'm on a fixed income. I'm on Medicare, and I don't have the money to pay rent and to do physical therapy. So one option that I was given, and you know, I'll keep going over it. I'm blessed that I was able to do this, that I was fit enough, that I was just in the right shape at the right time, and it just worked out. And I was able to get printouts of all the exercises that I was doing in the physical therapy office. After they had trained me how to do it, after a few visits, I was able to relieve myself from physical therapy and continue those things at home. And that's something that maybe you guys might have to deal with in your situations. You know, that, like I said, every amputee situation is different. There's never going to be the same. There's going to be similar, but never the same. Everyone's going to have different things going on. And one example I can give you of that is I have adult acne. I have my mom has skin problems. I've had skin problems my whole life. It just never let up, you know, after my teenage years, and no matter how much I clean my face, I just have skin problems. Well, wearing a silicone liner on your leg can act like a petri dish. So for me, I was getting ingrown hairs, folliculitis. I was getting pimples and little pus sores, and trying to walk on those things is extremely painful. People just don't get how extremely painful I'm talking. It can be like walking on shards of razor blades that have been broken up into little pieces, and then someone heated them up till they're glowing embers, put them in your prosthetic, and then made you walk on those razor blades digging into your skin that are burning at the same time. Or phantom pain, or residual nerve damage where it feels like your toes. For me, it felt like my pinky toe is being cut off with pliers. And obviously you don't have a foot to rub your toe. There's nothing to grab. It's a process. You know, it's a big process, and it's not something that happens overnight. And some people, it takes years. Just because I was able to walk right away, that didn't mean that I was able to walk far. I wasn't able to go more than maybe 20 feet before it hurt so bad I had to take it off. And that's when the on-off therapy started coming in, to learn how to wear it long enough to be able to use it. And once you get through those steps, that's after the amputation. It's like it's a short but steep uphill, and then it can be somewhat rugged, but most of a downhill slide from there. You know, maybe you'll have a complication and things go up, but other than that, it's pretty much it's a downhill stride. You're just getting used to it. Your body's going to strengthen more to it. Your body the walking mechanics are going to adapt. Things are going to get easier for you. I'm able to wear my leg. I could fall asleep and wear it all night and not know that I left it on. So you will get to that point if you try. You must try. And I know it's discouraging at times. That's what happened to me. I mean, I faced 6 really painful surgeries. You know, I was blessed enough that I wasn't addicted to opioids by the end of that. And that, you know, I really wish that they would have just amputated my ankle instead of all these pins and screws and everything that goes into it. And 6 surgeries of that. I mean, I went through one of the most negative experiences over 2 years of my life prior to losing my leg. And then getting that whole new set of challenges, which is losing the leg, going through that surgery, the pain. 7 months after I was walking in my leg, I developed a neuroma, and I'll get into that later in a further chapter. But they're just examples of complications that anyone can have. It could be your skin, it could be something underneath the skin, it could be nerves, it could be a lot of things. It could be all mental. Sometimes your mind is trying to figure out where that leg is. But the whole process for me, I would still have to say, was a positive one. Even through the pain, even through some of the frustrating times of getting things adjusted and getting into that check socket, the initial socket, getting insurance to pay for your first initial leg, and getting one that's going to feel comfortable and right for you. You know, you're going to have to figure out what leg works for you. Your prosthetist is going to have to help you find out what your goals are, what your K level is. K level is an insurance scale measurement that insurance uses to determine how athletic you are as an amputee. I'm a K4, and I believe it goes K1 through K5 or K1 through K4. Don't hold me to that. I'm a K4. I'm pretty active, and so with that, the insurance, my insurance, not all insurance, my insurance through United, you know, because I'm more active, I end up getting things. I burn through them quicker. You know, I go through them. This was my first socket. This was my very first one, real thick, and you know they do real cool designs. This actually used to be I put a flower pot in it, so don't mind the dirtiness. You know, there's even some amendments that had to be made to it, but this is huge. When I look at the size comparison just in the front, and then look on the side, this thing weighs a lot. This thing is real light, even with the leg on. And slowly, no, I don't have the next one down, but I move down in size. So further down, and further down from that. So you can see how much I've atrophied just by even these two. And these ones were later permanent sockets. So you'll end up with the room full of legs one day. The over equipment, some of the stuff that helps, you know, when you're running, when you get to that stage, and you're going to need overliners during the beginning stages. Now, I don't need these because I'm in a 0-ply socket. My prosthetist and I went over that, and we thought that was the best fit for my levels. But starting out, you will atrophy. There will be a lot of swelling. After walking, your leg's going to swell and then go back down. You know, it can be very painful, but the swelling comes after. So what I mean by that is you could be walking in your leg and you may have walked 100 yards and then it feels now painful at the bottom. Like it feels like your bones touching the bottom, because the way they're designed, the prosthetic pinches all sides, so that way the bottom of your nub, here's the bottom of the prosthetic, the bottom of your nub always sits, there's the pin, you always sit off the bottom. You're never riding bone on top of that prosthetic. So that you might start feeling pain down there and say, okay, what is that? And then you're gonna have to add a ply sock. Here's a 1, this is a 3-ply, they make them color coded. This is a 5-ply. You can see how much I've gone through, you know, a lot of these socks. You know, there was a point where I was wearing 7, 8-ply, which most prosthetists and mine go against. That's why you fit in with insurance. You get a new prescription from your doctor or your physiatrist, and then they put in the works in the order to get you a new prosthetic that's more fitting, because as you atrophy, you will need to get new sockets. When? That's up to your body. That really isn't up to anything else. I mean, for me, I was already pretty atrophied. So, you know, take example, a motorcycle accident. A guy tips his motorcycle, the bike lands on his leg, takes it off. That guy one day was walking and able to run and everything. The next day he wakes up and he's missing a leg. There's a lot of muscle still on his calf because of how strong he was. All that muscle is going to have to slowly atrophy. So that gentleman or female, whoever that person might be, in just an example, might have to go through several sockets until atrophy stops. I mean, I went through several and I already had atrophy. My leg had already been atrophied. So there will be a process, and you will end up with a lot of these, or, you know, a lot of full sets. I have 3 full legs now. And every time I've gone to something a little different. So, you know, those are all things you want to discuss with your doctors, your prosthetists, the amputee specialists. But my advice to anyone going into this is that this is the beginning to your life. This is a new chapter of your life. What may seem like the end of everything to you opens a whol new book of new adventures and new things that you can do and accomplish, and self accomplishment that you'll get from doing these things. So don't think that because you're going to lose your leg, your life is over. Don't think that because you know your leg's just not fitting right, that this just isn't for you, or that insurance is taking too long, or I don't like the prosthetist that I have. And in that sense, you can always choose a new prosthetist to do your leg as long as they're covered by your insurance company. And most take all insurance companies. If you're military, you go through the VA. I'm not military. Mine was due to a skateboarding accident, like I said. So I don't get those kind of benefits that they do. But for me, it's every 3 to 5 years that unless there's a drastic need for a new socket or a new actual metal leg. So there was provisions that was needed on my body through the experience that I was after the amputation. Some modifications needed to be done, so my doctor had to write new prescriptions to get the equipment that my leg needs. Not all legs are the same, like I said. So they're stiff. Most of them are. This is an accessory piece. This is a little twisting thing. So this is like a shock absorber. So there's different components. This leg is not just one piece. There's this, you can have, your prosthetist can pick this piece out and put it on this leg if you need it. There's a million different ways to do this. There's suction sockets where they don't use a pin like this. If this is one like this bothers you, there's ones that you can go to that you suction to suck onto your leg to hold it there. There's bionicle ones that are pretty expensive, and pretty much only the military or workman's comp are getting these. And that's the bionicle ones that are still going through extreme phases of new technology, and that's nerve response. It's detecting you trying to move a foot that's not there, the prosthetic picking up on those electric signals and doing them for you as if it was you doing it. So there's all sorts of ways to go about this. This isn't the end of the world. This isn't the end of the road. This is a new beginning. This is a new chapter, a new life, and it's full of new adventure. I have to say it's a positive one. I enjoyed a lot of the experience that I had. Was quite interesting. There was a lot of stuff that I never learned, I never knew before, I never thought of. And that's some of the things we're going to go over in some of my later on chapters is, I don't just, this is just about me in my process here. In the future here, I'm going to be going over a lot of different, this is just chapter 1. The mission of these is to help you guys. This is to help anyone that hasn't lost their leg yet, is thinking about going to an amputation as a resolution, a doctor just saying that's your only option right now. There could be several things that are leading up before you're even an amputee that you want to know or that you need to know about in order to make you feel comfortable going through with the process. And so my mission with this series, with this, these series of chapters of videos, is to help you guys, to kind of motivate you guys, and to kind of help you guys skip some of the painful steps that I went through to learn what I know. And I know it sounds a little complicating, but instead of having to learn the hard way and go through the pain through it, I'm trying to help you guys avoid the pain and learn that knowledge before going through it. And so I also want to go over, a lot of stuff. The other chapters I got set up for this segment. Chapter 2 is, what to expect. I'm going to go over what to expect when you go in, what they do, how you walk out of there. And I kind of went through some of that today, but I'm going to go a little more detailed into it. And I'll be providing links to support groups. The Limb Preservation Foundation was a big one for me. They helped me pay rent while I was going through this process, because I lived so far away and I don't drive, that I needed to stay at my mother's house so I could get to my doctor's every week for a new cast. And where I lived out by DIA, I had to pay rent, and my landlord wasn't accepting, oh, well, you're not going to be here, so whatever. He was going to fill the room, so I had to pay rent. The Limb Preservation Foundation helped me out. So that was one that helped me. So I'll always be leaving links in the description below in the videos for you guys to just kind of do some research on your own. And there's going to be other videos. So chapter 2, what to expect, what to expect going through it, what to expect after, and even what to expect years down the road. It may be 1, 2, 3 years before you have a first complication. Could be a neuroma. Could be a ton of things. So that's chapter 2. Chapter 3 is going to be adjusting to life as an amputee, building new habits and routines. And that's more things that people don't think of, like how to shower without a leg or 2 legs or an arm, things like that. There's, it's going to be things that most people that have 4 limbs don't think of. Things that as an amputee I had to learn how to do in a method of steps. There's a method of steps to each thing, and then a backwards reverse steps back out of it, like in the shower and other things. So chapter 3 is going to go over some of the things that I learned how to do and what I do to avoid some of that dragged out annoying things, like things that you wouldn't even think about, like going to the bathroom in the middle of the night. Or if you're sick, having to throw up, stuff like that. So I'm going to go over some of that in chapter 3. Chapter 4, I want to go through the mental side of it. As I mentioned earlier, I'm on disability for mental health. So for me, it wasn't the amputation or any of that put me on disability. It was mental health and stuff along the lines that led me to disability and to where I was prior to losing my leg. And so the mental side of things can be quite hard for me. After 2 years of negative, painful surgeries, I had the most optimistic, ready to go, gung-ho attitude there was of anyone. I had the most positive outlook on the whole process, and I believe that positivity changes things inside of you. It changes how you think, your thought process. You build new habits from those thought processes, and those new habits lead you to easier things, confidence, just all sorts of things you can't think of. That's why I have this book, because there's just so much information, so much stuff that to go over. I can't remember it all to sit here and have a broken down segment for you chapter by chapter. It's hard enough as is trying to break it down and how I have it. So with the mental aspect, I want to go over some of the challenges. Post amputation depression, pre-amputation depression, pre-amputation anxiety, post amputation anxiety, self-doubt, self-worthless, self-consciousness about wearing your leg out in public or having it covered all the time, or anything that you might be going through mentally. I'm going to try and cover and ways to get around it in chapter 4. That's a big one for me, because a lot of this is a mental game. I would have to say 30%, 35% is physical. The other 65% is going to be mental. This is a mental game. This is building the confidence. This is overcoming the pain, overcoming the doubt, overcoming the depression. So I want to go over those kind of things in chapter 4. And as far as I got now, chapter 5, which is prosthetic modifications to prolong the prosthetic's life and its complexion. These things are expensive. They can be upwards of $30,000, or it just depends. And some of the artwork on some of these, you want to preserve. This is my first one, and I tore this thing up. This thing got messed up. Even this part cracked. So, you know, there's even the bottom of the prosthetic blade will eventually pop through the foot shell, and this is what holds your shoe on. So I have ways to avoid this. I have ways to keep these clean, and these, you know, for people that are athletic. Like, my channel is called Amputee Outdoors. You're not just going to find amputee videos on self-help and stuff like that. This is just that. I do videos on fishing, catching snakes like rattlesnakes, rattlesnake removal, stuff like that. A lot of outdoor stuff. I'm a big outdoorsman. I'm on disability for mental health. I need to be out in nature. For me, that's what is my medicine. That is what keeps me mentally sane through everything. And part of that requires physical ability. And sometimes that physical challenge can reach the mental side, and you know, you got to find ways around things. So for me, there's modifications you can do to prosthetics, not you yourself, things to bring up to your prosthetist, ask them. I have never once ever touched a single screw or any of those little things on there. I will not touch a single one on a single prosthetic. And let me tell you, taking the bus and having a prosthetic office that is miles away and hours of a bus ride away, it can be quite frustrating and challenging going in, taking the bus 4 times a week to go get a modification, because it felt right in the beginning. It felt like it was fitting, but then when you got home after a little activity, then it started up again. Other things, there's so many things that can happen. Never adjust your prosthetic yourself. Most good prosthetists will give you an emergency contact line, especially as a new amputee. And that'll be a direct line to them, or an office that you can reach someone if you have a prosthetic emergency. There's people that can't get their prosthetic limb off. Sometimes it gets stuck on there. Sometimes sand or something. Sometimes they didn't clean it right, or they didn't take care of it right. And now, or they started taking the Allen wrenches and unscrewing the screws, or trying to adjust it themselves. And that is not the right way to do it. You will not ruin the leg. You could hurt yourself extremely bad. It could fall apart while you're walking, and you could fall and injure yourself. There's a lot of serious risks playing with your prosthetic. Always bring your prosthetic to the prosthetic office and let them make the modifications. If there's something that, you know, not all of them are amputees. I'm on my knees a lot, so I've asked for special padding to protect the cosmetics. As you can see, this isn't something standard. There's things that you can do to keep it looking nice, but never ever attempt to modify your prosthetic limb yourself. And always go over with your doctors what you want to do, what your goal is, why, if it's hurting. Maybe they can find another resolution to your problem. You know, it just takes time. Sometimes it can take a year, and then they have everything figured out and they know to make copies, you're done atrophying. Sometimes it takes 6 to 10 years and you're still having issues. It's 6 years down the road and I still have phantom pain. At night it still feels like my leg is being filled with electricity. So there will be challenges forever. That's never going to change. But my goal with all of this is just to help you guys out, to kind of give you some insight from an amputee, you know, my perspective, my angles, what I do, things that I've figured out, things that I know to do when they arise, things I have a mental note to look out for, you know, like if it's hot out and sweating, things and tricks to do to keep me from sweating. So there's a lot of things I want to share with you guys, a lot of things that a lot of prosthetists would think this is great that I'm doing this. I talked to my prosthetist, Greg, the one that was there from day one. I asked him before I started this, I said, hey, is this something that the world needs? Is something that amputees need right now? You know, because I have a lot of information and I'm such an athletic amputee. It's almost a sin for me to keep this information from people that are desperately reaching and needing for it. And sometimes the research just isn't there, the data isn't there, the forums can be confusing, it can be hours of research. I'd like to make video segments for you guys. I just want to do this for you. It's not for me, it's all for you guys, and that's what brings me satisfaction, is knowing that I could help someone else out, knowing that I might have changed someone's opinion. You know, someone that's staring down the barrel of an amputation might be so scared that they're ready just to live a life in agony, when really once they have the amputation and once they've gone over a few speed bumps, now they can run, you know, 1,000,000 miles on the track. You know, you could climb Mount Everest. There's people that go back in the military after getting fitted with a prosthetic. So for those that are looking down that barrel and are looking at the chance of, you know, maybe I should just avoid the amputation and just deal with it, you know, there's a lot of advice for you guys in here, a lot of inspiration, motivation. People don't realize that you have the world at your feet or hands, no pun intended, depending where you're amputated. You have the world to do what you want to do. There's no end just because a piece of your body is gone. So I'm here to help. Like I said, my name is Gary the Amputee. Please like, subscribe, hit that notification button. You know, this is my first chapter, and this is just getting to know Gary the Amputee. So there's going to be other chapters coming up, at least 5 that I've come up with so far, maybe more. As things come to mind, I might come up with other chapters, or even just do segments of outdoor fishing as an amputee, or outdoor hiking, or just whatever you guys want. And if you guys want to leave me any questions, my channel's just starting on YouTube. So YouTube has the comment section disabled. I can't change that. So if you would like to get a hold of me, if you have questions, if you have video requests, if you just want to know a little bit more about something I covered that I didn't fully go into detail about, you know, it's a lot of information. I can get scattered or off topic really fast. So if it's something that I forgot to finish or anything like that, email me. My email is amputeeangler@gmail.com. Amputee, no space, angler. AMPUTEEANGLER@gmail.com. Email me. I'm also on Instagram. So I have the link on my Instagram. You can search me under Gary Sloat, Gary, last name SLOAT, or Amputee Outdoors 24, I believe. I think someone else had the name on Instagram before me. But I will leave links to my Instagram at the bottom as well. And I just thank you guys for watching, and I hope that you guys subscribe, and I hope that this information reaches the right people, hopefully in the right time. And if you need anything, reach out to me, amputeeangler@gmail.com, and look forward to my future videos. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know it's been a long video, a lot of data to process, maybe a little confusing. My email's down in the link below, so give me a shout. Let me know what you'd like to see or anything else.